What's going on, everybody? TL Branson here, and it's time for another book review. Today, I'm going to be reviewing From Blood and Ash and A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L Armentrout. And I've got my Kindle Paperwhite here for From Blood and Ash. I know that there's no color, so it's kind of sad looking, but that's what we're going to be talking about. And this is a spoiler review, just so you know. If you want my spoiler-free review, check out my blog, tlbranson.com/blog, and you'll be able to find my reviews on there. Those are spoiler-free. This one is going to go through the book telling you what I thought. I should mention that From Blood and Ash was the first book that I've ever read from Jennifer L Armentrout. I'm just going to call her JLA from now on. Everybody on YA Fantasy Addicts has been pushing From Blood and Ash for the last couple months. I've seen it all over the place. Then Kingdom of Flesh and Fire came out, and you were all talking about that. And I just said, you know what? I need to figure out what everyone's talking about. So I started From Blood and Ash. I have to tell you, the first chapter was okay-ish, but Poppy tended to monologue a lot, at least in the first chapter. There was a lot of info dumping, and I'm not huge into the info dump. I was this close to just giving it up, but the ending of chapter 1 hooked me. And that's when Poppy stumbles into Hawk's room there in that tavern. I thought that this was like a bad guy that had captured her, so I had to keep reading into chapter 2 to figure out what was going on. And that's when I figured out that this was a guard, and Poppy had been watching him from afar, and she thought he was attractive, and so I could sort of see where that storyline was going. I have to tell you, the first half of the book on From Blood and Ash was rather dull. I got through it, you know, and I pushed through, and people on Facebook were telling me, you have to treat this like Crescent City. If you've read Crescent City, that book took a lot to get into, and From Blood and Ash is the same way. There was a lot of slow build-up, but somewhere right around the point where the Craven are attacking the Rise, and Poppy goes out, and she pulls out her bow, and, you know, she's shooting them all down, and then Hawk, of course, chases her, and then Hawk reveals that he knew that it was Poppy all along and that sort of thing. And that's the moment when Hawk said, hey, I knew it was you all along. From the moment that I was introduced as your guard, I knew. That was probably the point of where I started to really get into the story. And then when the dissenters attacked the palace, I don't know what you'd call it, but where Poppy lived, the castle, that sort of thing, that was some pretty intense stuff. As soon as I saw the Duke hanging there dead with the cane through his chest, I was like, yeah, Hawk did that. Now, small confession from me. I did Google to see who Hawk was. You see, there was a point about 25% of the way through the book where I had a suspicion that Hawk was Castile. And the ladies that Poppy was sitting with said that the Dark One, or Prince Castile, nobody really knew what he looked like, and he could be in this palace at this very moment. And when Hawk was standing just 5 feet away, the bells were starting to ring for me. Maybe that's what that is. And I have a nasty habit of needing to know now. So I Googled it, and sure enough, Hawk was Castile. So, of course, when the Duke was dead, I knew that Castile had done that. And see, that made that moment even more special to me. Having looked up that spoiler, even though I hadn't gotten that far in the book, that moment meant something more to me because I knew. And so I loved that. That was a great moment for me. And then, of course, everything that happens afterwards, they're taking Poppy to the capital, but then Hawk has other plans, and he takes her to New Haven instead. And I have to tell you, it didn't really sit well with me when they killed off all the other party members, but I could understand why. And again, I knew sort of what was going on here. But I can understand Poppy's frustration and situation when she discovers that Hawk, the person she thought she could trust, has been lying to her. And then I really resonated with her when she said that, you know, she'd been caged up all this time, and here Hawk and friends are just caging her up again. And that was very true. They had locked her up, and I felt for her. And I was like, Castile, what are you doing? This isn't the man that I've grown attached to over the last couple chapters in the book. I want you to be the one that she deserves. And so the book kind of ends right around that point. Then I started A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, and I'm so happy that that book started right where the other one left off. So many times books, they skip a month or skip a couple years or whatever. I liked that literally the moment we left off in From Blood and Ash is the moment that we pick up in A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. And I have to tell you, the first couple of chapters from that book, while my interest was heightened because I went from one book to the next and I didn't have any space in between, I just kept right on binge reading, and it flowed well. But I have to say I was really, really frustrated with Castile at first, because Poppy is obviously still very angry at him. She wants to kill him. She doesn't want to marry him. And he has to come up with this idea of, let's get married. Let's pretend get married. He won't just come out and say, hey, I love you, or I'm sorry, or it was the only way that I could get you away. Or he didn't really try to explain any of that. He just kept dancing around the issue, and Poppy is really mad, and it was frustrating me that Castile just was not even explaining himself. And I mentioned that on Facebook, and one of you all said, really? I thought it was Poppy who was being annoying, and I thought Castile was very obvious in his affection for her. And as the story progressed, I found that to be the case. I found that Poppy just refused to let go of this, no matter how much he did for her, no matter how much he showed that he cared. She just would not let go of this. Now, of course, again, Castile is still sort of to blame because the man still didn't tell her how he felt. So I don't know. I'm tossed about who I should be upset at, Castile or Poppy. But the fact of the matter is that there was a lot of romantic tension in A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, and it bothered me. Not in a bad way, but just in a like, oh, come on, get over it. But right around the 75% mark, they did. They had their heart-to-heart moment, and everything sort of, just went from there. And that was a great moment right before the Ascended attack. That little heart-to-heart that they have was great. But then the attack was awesome. See, I'm a sucker for action scenes. And I have to say, JLA wrote an awesome battle scene there at the end of book 2. I felt myself there. Every single moment, every crash into the ground, rolling under the cart to get away from attacks. And just that everything about it was awesome. And of course, as the book had gone on, we found that Poppy had been developing more of her powers. And I have to say, the foreshadowing in A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, that was awesome. From Blood and Ash had a few moments of foreshadowing, but there wasn't a lot of big revelations for me. I picked up the Castile thing early on, as I told you, and that was the big reveal for From Blood and Ash. In Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, the way that we see Poppy's magic develop and how she can heal, and then when they say that she smells old, I loved that. You smell like death, or you smell old, or your blood is really old, and that sort of thing. And that was a key point there. I didn't know why they were saying this. I figured it just meant because, she tied back to her blood, tied back to an extinct version of the Atlanteans. But that ending, man, the last page of the book was phenomenal. Best ending I think I probably have ever read. Crescent City's ending was phenomenal, but Crescent City's ending was like 400 pages. It was not just, the last page or two, but that last chapter of Kingdom of Flesh and Fire was phenomenal. And I have to tell you, right there at the end, when Poppy is alone and she's been lured into there by Beckett, which, come on, Beckett? Seriously, Poppy saved his life, or saved his legs anyway. I need to know why Beckett did that. We didn't get to see that at the end of book 2, but I need to know. Someone tell me why Beckett would do that. Beckett! Come on, Beckett. Anyway, When all of those guardians had surrounded Poppy and they were going to kill her, I thought that she was going to do what she did in the battle, where she's calling all the woven to her, because they said that they could hear her calling for them. And I thought that's what was going to happen. And then when the blood started raining down, I thought it was because Castile had arrived and he had torn into everybody. But no, it was Poppy's magic coming into fruition, which, before we get to that final point, I must say that during that battle, with the Ascended, I do have to admit that I thought Poppy was going to take their fear and crush it and that sort of thing. I thought that's what was going to happen, but instead that's when the Woven came to her. And then the emotion aspect played out at the end of the book, when she basically just wiped everyone out with a thought. She took their emotion and she crushed it, and she ground them into dust. It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen Once Upon a Time, the TV show on ABC, where they stick their hand into the person's chest and pull out their heart and then crush it and it turns to ash. That's kind of like, I know these people didn't turn to ash, but that's just what I imagine she was doing to their soul to make their bodies just drop and fall down like that. And I was not expecting that last line. When the Queen, Castile's mother, bows before Poppy, and then Alistair, I can't remember how you pronounce his name, but that man, he knew all along. That guy knew exactly what was going, and he didn't tell Castile, he didn't tell Poppy, but of course, we were told that Alistair's allegiance was to the King and Queen. So he says to the Queen, "It's not too late." And she said, "Oh, it absolutely is too late." And then she shares that line about Poppy being the last descendant of the gods, and how she now has the rulership of Atlantia. And it brought that foreshadowing from when the Duke Tyrman's wife, when she had told Poppy that your grandmother will be pleased to hear that you just married Castile, because the kingdom is now yours. You've pulled the rug out from underneath the Atlanteans. And I didn't know what that meant, but we were going to find out in just a few chapters. Man, I can't tell you how much I loved these books. Yeah, From Blood and Ash started off really slow, but Kingdom of Flesh and Fire was phenomenal. The end of From Blood and Ash was great. Even the romantic tension, which I didn't particularly enjoy, just because it was bothersome, it still had a great resolution, and the powerful moments were just off the charts. I need book 3, and I need it now. Somebody get me book 3. Why is it still 3 months until it's released? I can't handle it. I can't stand it. I don't like to wait. I hear that the JLA has posted chapter 1 somewhere on Facebook in a secret group or one of her spoiler groups or something like that. You can go read it. I personally am not going to, because if I read chapter 1, I'm not going to want to stop. I did sign up for an arc of book 3 from the publisher. If I get my hands on an arc, I will definitely be sure to let you know about it. But thanks for watching my video. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you so much. Please like and comment. Let me know what you thought of the books. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. What was your favorite moment? And please subscribe, and we'll have more videos. I'll get better at this as I go along. This is like only my 5th video I've ever made, and my last video before this was like a year ago. So I hope you'll stick around, and these will get a little bit more entertaining as I figure out how to work book 2. But thanks for checking it out. We'll see you at the YA Fantasy Addicts Facebook group. Also, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/YA Fantasy Addicts. I post all of my review videos there 1 week before they hit the main population, so you'll be able to get early access to all the review videos. You can recommend books for me to review, so if you want to see me review a book, you'll be able to do that there on Patreon. Your support also helps us keep YA Fantasy Addicts going. We'll be running more giveaways and more exciting activities throughout the next coming months, and I can't do that without your support. So thank you so much. Thank you, Dana, Morgan, and Samantha, who have already signed up as of the time of this video, which I literally just launched the thing like 3 hours ago. So you guys are awesome for already being supporters. and much appreciated. We'll see you later. Bye.